Walking these streets, shadows fall, lost in a world, echoes call, searching for light, voices true, St. James Church in the heart of the blue. Glorify God, nurture all, share the gospel, hear the call. That is what we do at St. James, breaking chains, singing new names.
Welcome to our 75th anniversary talks today. We're here with Ron and Lori Babb, and going to talk about all their experiences while they've been here. And I know you've got a lot of them, been here for quite a while. So how did you guys get here and become members of this church, and why?
That's a really good question.
Shoot, go ahead.
He came from Hillside Wesleyan.
Oh, okay.
So he's a staunch, he grew up in a church.
Oh, okay.
He will, if you have 3 hours, he will tell you about all of the different things that he did and all of the wonderful,
come in a little bit more.
all
Sorry.
of the wonderful experiences they had, and how he tried to talk Phil Roselle into having when they were doing different things to raise money, he wanted them to have a bike-a-thon around the parking lot. And Phil never wanted to because he already had things jotted down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, see, our youth group, I loved our youth group. We had so much fun. But we'd have walk-a-thons, bike-a-thons, we never cooked or anything. It was just that. Just did a lot of things like that.
Right.
And it was a lot of fun.
Cool.
I really enjoyed it.
One of the first things he said coming here, he said, "Oh, this parking lot's perfect for a ride-a-thon, a bike-a-thon."
Yeah, the bike-a-thon, just...
But then,
Sure.
but every year he would ask Phil about, and every year Phil would say, "Well, we'll think about that."
Yeah.
But
I finally gave up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And see, I was unchurched totally.
Okay.
Mom and Dad didn't go. They probably would have been Lutheran had they gone, because they were both very German. Mom dropped me off at a church one time, and I went in and sat through the service, and it was probably Baptist, I think. It was at the end of our road, and she just said, "Well, see if you like it." And so I went to church with everybody that I could go with. I was Methodist for a while. I was Wesleyan. I had a boyfriend who was Baptist. I couldn't go to the Sunday morning service because I was not baptized, but I could go to the Sunday evening service.
Oh,
So
that's interesting.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Oh, listen. I went to Church of God of Prophecy. That was scary.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So and so then when I got married and we had our first child, Eric was about 2, so it would have been about 1990. And Mark at that time said, "We really need to get that boy to church." And I'm thinking, what do you see in him that maybe is the devil come out in his boy? Anyway, so and we didn't know that Lori Gates, who we both taught with, went here.
Oh.
I mean, we should have probably picked up on that because I'm sure she talked about it. But we walked in here after going to different churches, and it's like the Three Bears. One was too big, one was too small, and or whatever. And so we came in here, and Grandma McClure, who I'm sure somebody has talked about, because anyway, she envelops me in this gigantic hug, and I'm thinking, who is this woman? But it was so kind and so gentle and so loving. Now, Mark was not a fan of hugs. So he was like, "Okay, you can hug my wife, but you're not hugging me." So we started here because Eric was 2, and we wanted to get him into some kind of a church facility thing. And so that's how, back in 1990, that's how we started coming here. And then when I married Ron, I made him come because I said, "I'm not going to Hillside, that's Wesleyan." Well, and Mark grew up with Lutheran parents, even though they actually attended a Methodist church down in Muncie.
Oh, okay.
And they always wanted us to go. And his step grandmother always wanted us to go to her church. But her church was one of the ultra traditionalist. And see, this was back when we knew her. It was 70s and 80s, and I had to wear dresses. I didn't have any.
Oh, wow.
And Mark was supposed to wear a suit, and he didn't have any. So the parents were not happy, and Great Grandma Crystal was not happy, and so they kept pushing us to go to church. So when we finally said, "Well, yeah, we're going to St. James Lutheran," then they stepped back. It was like, okay, God's got you now, so we don't have to be nearly as picky. So that's how I came here. And the thing is, I had no, other than I sang alto in a choir with one of my friends and the boyfriend that took me to Sunday evening services. I had no background in anything. I wasn't anything.
Oh, okay.
If somebody had said, "Well, what do you believe in?" I would have said, "Well, God and Christ and the Holy Spirit, and that's I'm going to heaven."
Right.
Because that's what I knew.
Right. Yeah.
Then when I brought him here, I said, "Well, now you get to learn the real truth about what the Bible really says."
Well, see, when I came here and I found out that the rapture was something totally different. I mean, that's what I grew up, there's going to be one,
sure.
blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
So that threw me for a loop.
Oh, yeah. Very different belief on that.
Yeah. But, and the other thing that threw me for a loop was communion every week. See, we had it like once a year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just once a year, and that was it. So I had to get used to that one, too.
Yeah, I've always explained to people the difference, the three churches, is that there's the altar and the pulpit. And if you go into church and they focus on the altar and do very little time in the pulpit, you're probably in a Roman Catholic church. If you go into a church and they focus on the pulpit and not the altar, you're probably in a Baptist church, a non-denominational church. If you go into church where they focus on both the pulpit and the altar, you're probably in a Lutheran church. So that's the slowest way it's a bizarre way to think about it, but actually.
Yeah, and then we used to have an altar call, too.
Oh, yeah.
And boy, sometimes they give the altar call and you just felt like you had to go,
Right.
Not that I always did, but I felt like sometimes you feel like something was tugging your chest and make you want to go up there. And I don't know if that was Jesus or if it was just
Holy Spirit.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so when I got here, they never did anything like that. So Lutheran was totally different for me.
Yeah, it is very different. Yeah.
Well, see, and he came after, when we first started, there was the greeting, which Mark also didn't like. Because you
during the service, everybody,
golly, he was like, "Where can we sit so we don't have to do?" And I would sit on the inside, he'd sit on the outside. But then I bet it was Joe Chambers. Joe came around the outside and shook his hand, and I was like, "He's got you. Somebody's going to say hello to you." And on one hand, now my first son Eric liked that. He was all for that. Ian would have hid under the pews if he could, and Nikki was like, "I don't care." But for some people, that just was so off-putting.
Right.
It was like, I want to slip in there, I want to see what this is about, and I don't want people to notice me. Other people, like Grandma McClure, had she not welcomed me so overtly, I don't know if that would have made a difference or not. But then we had seen Lori Gates, and so we knew we had somebody we could sit with.
Sure.
It makes sense. And for the longest time, and they're probably still here, she would make the front page of the bulletin was all her artwork.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, she was great. She
Wow.
was really good.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Oh my golly, 40 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Gee, I'm so glad I said that. So that's how we got here.
Oh, okay. So now, what roles and positions have you played here? What have you been involved in?
I played drums in the praise band.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Except it didn't matter whether they were real drums or whether it was the electronic drum set. Somebody would always go, you can't have drums up in the altar.
Oh, yeah, we had a few.
Yeah, people have
Complaints.
strong opinions about that.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
especially drums.
Yeah, they do.
I mean, and it was like, put plexiglass. You know, if you would put plexiglass around the drums, they would not nearly be as loud. And then when you went to electronic drums, you didn't have to do that because
Right.
that went through the sound system.
Right.
But they were still too loud. You could still hear them.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. That's always I know where I've been before. That's always been a
yeah.
issue.
Well, and you've done VBS before,
Oh, yeah.
and then you're also in the Nativity Walk.
Yeah.
Oh.
And he did, for the longest time, I'm pointing that way, he did the sign out front, which was...
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
okay.
I forgot about that. Yeah. Yeah, I used to scour the internet looking for some stuff.
Oh, sure.
Once in a while, I get some Bob Dylan lyrics and put them on there, too. Yeah.
Well, church is not church when you are not in it.
Right.
I mean...
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But I try to find something totally original, you know. I still want something spin up there 100 times by, you know, other people. I want to be original, so.
But see,
Sure.
that was a sequence of events. We went through a series where put something interesting out there, and then we went back to just put when we have services. I mean, there's been
Oh, sure.
so many shifts in everything.
Sure. So what roles have you played
Oh
here?
my Lord.
Where do you start, right?
Well, and here's the funny thing is, Joe Chambers, bless his heart, he knew that he could see that I needed to be involved in church. But back when I was teaching, I honestly felt like I was pulled 16 ways every day. And so he asked me to become part of the Christian ministry, education ministry team. It had a different name back then, and I'm not sure what it was. And I said, well, what would I have to do? He said, well, attend meetings. Well, I was doing track, volleyball, and I had gymnastics. They met on Mondays. I always had something.
Oh.
And coaching, you can't just go, well, you just do it on your own. I'll be back when... I never could make the meetings. And so he finally said to me, well, you know, I know you're interested. He was so kind and gracious. I mean, he should have just, after the first 3 times I missed, he should have said, well, she's done. He said, well, I understand that you're interested in this, and I think you would be a valuable member, but I can see we aren't going to mesh. Our schedules are just not going to mesh.
Right.
And so that was back in the early 2000s,
Okay.
probably. And then once I finally retired, then Pastor Larman put me on the committee and then put me in charge of the committee and moved who was in charge to a different committee where he thought they would fit better. And I'm going, I don't know what I'm doing, because there wasn't step 1, do this, step 2, do this, step 3. So I just kind of fumbled around with Janice, and I said, Janice, will you let me know when I'm going wrong? And, oh yeah, okay, you'll be fine. So that was the first thing. And then way back when we first had Eric and he first was coming, those 2 side rooms, the overflow rooms, had whatever it's called, a thing down the middle, a curtain down the middle.
Oh, yeah,
So there were
divider,
actually
yeah.
4 rooms, 2 on each side.
Okay.
And I don't know if anybody's talked about this, but back then we had kids. And if your kid attended, you served for like a month at a time.
Oh.
You had a month of Sundays where you were in charge, helped whoever was in charge. But like the 2 and 3-year-olds, then when your kid moved, you could either stay with the 2 and 3-year-olds or you went with your kid. But we had 4 different rooms up there.
Oh, okay.
And so that was one of the first things I did was, and I learned then that my best group of kids age is not 4 and 5-year-olds. I can get down on their level, but I don't necessarily mesh with them real well. Anyway, so that was, and you were expected. I mean, it was a given that if you had a kid involved, you had a month that you were assigned. And see, then that also was when we had the nursery in here, or
It was down that way a little bit.
well, it's been everywhere.
Yeah.
The nursery's been everywhere. But you were assigned to the nursery.
Oh, okay.
If you had kids, you were assigned. Then when we got the addition put on, that wasn't nearly as impossible to do. We went, and I did VBS for I don't know how many years. I was a counselor, which is the easiest job in the world and also the hardest.
Oh, yeah,
because
you guide the kids around, right?
You've got to guide the kids around. You got to know
Right.
where they're going, but you don't have to learn anything,
Yeah.
which is much easier than teaching the songs. But Phil was great. Although if we never do a tootie-ta, a tootie-ta, a tootie-ta, if we never do that again, I will be happy.
Oh, okay.
We did that every VBS. He had I don't know how many songs that we did, and Peggy's talking about bringing some of them back, which is fine. I mean, that's as long as I don't have to do tootie-ta. But he had a way of getting everybody involved, and was so gracious about it that you really didn't mind doing it. He put Ron. I think you were out with rec games or something at one point.
With who?
With Phil? No, that was Tom Jervis. But when Phil was here, we were on it.
Yeah.
He had everything was organized, everything was planned. Well, if we're not that's not Phil's way, so we're not doing that. Then I got involved more with VBS, did the fiasco of the sound system and getting that all figured out. PL went up to, Pastor Larman went up to, they came from Muskegon, Michigan. There was a nativity walk, an inside nativity walk in a school, church school, and he brought the people who did that down here
Oh, okay.
to talk about, and then left. And so he left it with, like, there were 5 or 6 of us that showed interest, and he left us a video, and I think I was the only one that said, yeah, I'm interested in that.
Oh. And then you end up leading
I
it,
was
right?
interested
Still
in
leading
it. I'm
it.
just interested. But it's ours changed. The lady, it was funny because the lady said, now she gave us little boxes, bins, plastic bins with lids and had folders, umpteen zillion, probably 20 folders in there. And she said, now you'll need to use every sheet of paper that's in here. And I'm thinking, okay.
Wow.
Didn't.
Oh, no.
Made all my own because
sure.
we had to figure out the rotation, and we've gone we're on the second rotation now, which I think is better. But anyway, we worked through all that, and Tom Jervis, we call him Mr. PVC,
Yeah.
because they used 4x8 wooden flats and put stretched canvas over the top of that, which I thought would be great. And between Pastor Larman and Tom, they decided they weren't going to do that. They were going to make PVC because that'd be much easier to straighten. I don't care. But that's how that started. And then this coming up, we just finished the eighth year, and we'll be in the 9th year. So I can't believe it's been that long.
Yeah.
I mean, and then Praise Team. I even directed Praise Team for a while, way back in the dark ages of Praise
Yeah, it's been
Team.
a long time ago.
Well, and Karen in their interview said that we had fun. The practices, and with Phil, we have so much fun during practice.
Right.
I mean,
That's
we
right.
get a lot done.
Yeah, I can tell. Yeah.
But there was, okay, this is one amusing anecdote. We had a person who was a keyboard player and didn't really play a lot, and he was a friend of Dave Aaron's son, Kevin, I think. Might have been Jeff. Anyway, he came over to play, and we were playing step by step, and he could not figure out an introduction. Couldn't figure out, and I said, well, if you just play the last 2 chords, then we can come in. And we practiced it a couple times, and we came in. Do you think we could do that on Sunday? We did not. He played dun dun, and I'm thinking, what's my note? What note? And so the crazy thing was, we all huddled around the piano trying to figure out where we were. And the congregation is trying to follow us, who we weren't leading, but we were back in the back. And so it didn't look nearly as funny as it could have. But because we're all gathered around this keyboard in the back going, I don't know where we are. And he's pointing in the music, and I'm thinking, what is that? Oh, I know that note, but I'm not saying. It's so Praise Team has just been hilarious. But anyway.
That's funny.
So I think that's about all. And then I did do some typing and some PowerPoints, and when we did lock-ins, Peggy would have me come over for the lock-in and all the.
Yeah, that was kind of funny. Yeah. And now you're also on Family Life.
Oh, I'm on Family Life. Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
And actually, I was in charge of Family Life until the rule went through that you could only be in charge of one thing,
Oh,
which was fine.
yeah.
I didn't want to be in charge of it.
Right.
And Betty does a great job.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's tremendous.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of things going on with that, so it's good. It's
Yes, I can't wait till we go to Gas City and play in the park. Oh,
good. Yeah.
sorry.
That'll be good.
That's an aside.
I know. So what are some people who have had a big impact on you here at St. James in a good way?
You got anybody?
I'm trying to think. Oh, I don't know.
You like your guys you're on in the census with.
Oh, yeah.
Mitch and Danny.
Yeah, Danny and Mitch.
That's what I
Yeah,
just
we have a lot of fun doing the census.
Yeah.
You can probably tell.
and I think when you were going to the Thursday Bible study, probably Joe Chambers, maybe.
Well, yeah, I like being there, but then I couldn't make it after a while. I was having a lot of problems.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that you because he's not able to come every Sunday. It's harder for people to have an impact on you. Plus, way
Yeah.
back when you first started is when I think people would have affected you the most. But I mean, I think it's good because he gets to see that you can be a Christian and still have fun. I mean, that those are two not completely opposable
Right.
things.
Right.
And I go back to Gene Babb. You and he would have gotten along famously.
Oh.
But what really brought it home to me was he would always say when he talked about his relationship with God, he was awful. He said, I was terrible. I was the worst sinner. I mean, that's what he would tell everybody. And I'm not sure exact, because we didn't delve in. I didn't. Other people probably knew. But it was like, well, yeah, if you've done all the things I've done and you still know that you can be saved, then that means something. And I thought that has always stuck with me.
Right.
And then Nancy Anthonson's husband, Dale, was the first person that ever told me that he liked my voice, and he hoped I never quit singing.
Oh, sorry.
And I thought, okay, it's Dale's fault.
Yeah.
And those two people, it was like, okay, just a little validation
Sure.
is. So I think back when I do all the things that I do that are wrong, I think, well, Gene's in heaven. I'm sure I am just positive he's in heaven. I've no doubt.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Joe Chambers has just been a steadfast person. Betty Willman is my buddy. Since I'm an only child, I had no brothers and sisters.
Oh.
So these guys here are my brothers and sisters.
Oh. Okay.
You're my brother,
Oh. Okay.
just so you
Good
know. You're my brother. And I form really strong attachments to
Sure.
people here because I look at them as my brothers and sisters, and that's, I don't know, that maybe is a good thing. I hate it when they leave.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, whether they move away or whether like Marcia Hammaker left to go to live with her daughter.
Yeah, I like Marcia.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of people here in passing have had input, but Joe and Jean Bogue, Betty, a couple other women, I'd have to say Elda because she's coming in at 1.
Yeah.
I can tell her I mentioned her name. They just, people here give.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I always got close to Dwayne McClure. I always liked, joking with him. I have a lot of fun with him.
Yeah. 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 Dwayne's a good.
Yeah.
Guy. So, any other interesting stories that you've got?
See, and I didn't think I'd have any anecdotes,
Yeah. Hey, there you go. You had lots.
but I had a couple.
Yeah.
Well, the one that touched me the most, and I'm going to have to look it up. My mom, when I was going to join the church, I needed to be baptized. I had never been. Mom was pretty sure that that they'd never baptized me, and I told Mark Carlson, I said, I don't think I've been baptized. So he said, well, we can fix that. We know how to do that. And then Mom said, I don't know if I've been baptized. Born on a farm, 13 kids in the family.
Oh, wow.
Well, Dad had 16. And then they had me. So he said, well, we can fix that. Well, Marcia Hamaker had started coming because she grew up in a Friends church.
Oh, okay.
The Friends church just down on 15 is where and they didn't have music.
Oh, that's
And
interesting.
well, and so she had talked to me, and so she started coming. And so it was like, well, yeah, let's just all get baptized. So, and I think Eric was there, but I think he had already been baptized, but somehow it sticks in my mind. But see, this is way back.
Yeah.
This is back 1997. I know, it'll be in Janice's big book.
Oh, yeah.
But there's Marcia, there's Mom, there's me, and I think Eric was next to me. And so I cried the whole time.
Oh,
I was, because I'm now God's.
right. Right.
And then Mom's going, it's okay. It's okay. We're kneeling up at the
Yeah.
rail. It's okay. And Marcia's going, what's the matter? And Mom's going, she's crying. And Marcia's going, tell her it's okay. And Mom's going, I did.
Sounds like Marcia.
That sticks in my mind, and whether that was just a baptism or whether we entered the church at that point, or were accepted as members, or what, I do not know. But the whole time, and my face was just, and Carlson's looking at me going, "You all right?" I said, "Well, I never really checked on him." It's okay. So, because there were things I did that he couldn't understand. And this is not, it's an anecdote, but it's strange now. Mark died on Thursday. I was in church on Sunday.
Oh, wow.
And Mark Carlson goes, well, I didn't expect you to be, I threw him off. I
Oh.
didn't expect you to be here because we were going to talk about, in the VIP class, in the members class, we were going to talk about how not all suicides are heaven denying.
Sure, sure.
And I said, you can talk about that.
Oh,
I said, where else would I be?
right. Yeah.
And see, I totally threw him.
Well, yeah.
I threw him for a loop. So if I ever do that to you, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's.
But it was like, because might have been in this room that we had the VIP class in. Anyway, very vitally informed people something.
Oh,
I stood
okay.
for something, but it was the Lutheran class.
Oh, okay.
Because see, I had grown up with no church. And I walked in and he did a double take. I've never seen anybody do a double take, but he did one. And
That was Pastor Carlson. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I of course, then there's the story about Ian used to run up to him and hug him, but his head was right in the wrong.
Oh,
Yeah.
So Pastor Carlson learned to turn sideways. I have
Yeah.
anecdotes about the
Yeah,
kids.
he
but-
tried to avoid him like the plague. Boom.
Because, see, the two youngest, Ian and Nikki, thought he was Jesus for
oh.
the longest time.
Oh, sure, sure.
I mean, and we'd explain, and he'd explain, but it was funny. Oh, and Eric, I have a story about Eric. We sat in the back pew, and when they would get mad, the kids would scoot away from us so that we couldn't touch them or channel their energy some other way. Well, they'd scoot down to the next people, and I'm going, get back here, you can't come. Well, so the Israels told me a story about how Brian was a pew cleaner, a pew sweeper.
Oh,
He did the same thing. He would get irritated with them, and he would sweep the pew and go away from. I said, okay, well, and Brian turned out just fine. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
figured my kids would be just fine. But it was so funny because they're going, and you know how quiet they are, and very calm. And so I feel this hand on my shoulder, and I think it was Sue who said, it'll be okay, because Brian used to be a pew sweeper. I'm not exactly sure what she called him, but we knew what it meant,
Oh, yeah.
pew cleaner. And I said, oh my gosh, I'm just driving me nuts. She said, and he turned out okay. Well, and you don't, and Brian would probably shoot me. No, he wouldn't. He'd think it was funny. But it would, because Brian's very unassuming and very, very together. And to think that he was like that and still turned out okay.
Yeah.
I had hope for my kids, and that was her point.
Yeah, that's funny. So, what are some changes that have happened since you've been here?
Not nearly as much as since you've been here, but
Yeah, there really hasn't been that many changes since I've been here.
well, we've had different pastors.
Oh, yeah.
And then we've had, way back at the very beginning when we first started, we had the two services. They were very similar, but the music was different.
Oh,
But
okay.
they alternated, and I don't think anybody has told you this. You had on one Sunday, like the first Sunday of the month, it was traditional and then contemporary, only it never was contemporary, it was just blended.
Oh, sure.
Then the second Sunday, that would switch.
Oh,
And then the next Sunday, it would switch. Well, that drove people nuts.
I forgot about that.
oh,
Yeah. And the thing is, it was good for me because we went to second service the whole time, but every other service would be traditional.
Right.
Now, we had the liturgy. I mean, the liturgy was in both, but the songs would be different.
right.
And so by doing that, if you missed a couple weeks, you're going, I don't know which service this is going to be. Let's just go and find out. But it was, and it got to, I think, annoy people maybe because the golfers all wanted to go to early service and they all wanted it to be the same service every single time. So then they went to early service was traditional and second service was more contemporary. And the other thing that's changed about the praise team, praise band, praise whatever, worship team, worship band, worship. It upstairs we started with like 2 guitars.
Oh,
And you've heard Pastor Feeney's name.
yes. Okay, a lot. Yeah.
His son DJ was a guitarist,
Okay.
and he was one of those guitar players from upstairs. We had to share the loft with the choir, and they did just fine. But we were noisy coming upstairs sometimes, and they would go, well, can't you just come upstairs and sit? And then when Sue broke her foot, all of that, the keyboard had to come downstairs.
Oh,
I
okay.
think that's what started the downstairs. Keith Allebach was still upstairs for a while, and you don't know him, but you would have liked him too. Every once in a while, we'd be practicing, and he'd be playing the music because it was all canned, and we'd hear this from the loft.
Oh.
It was Keith. Something had struck him funny, and we'd hear this like disembodied. And he was a large person and tall, and it was like didn't fit with Keith. You were expecting like you got it was hilarious, and of course that would break us up. We'd stop because we couldn't go on. We'd go, okay, Keith, what do we do? And he would yell at us, don't touch your mics. Don't turn them on, don't turn them off, just because he did that.
Oh, sure.
He
sure.
did all that upstairs. And
Sure.
and somebody would forget and turn theirs off. Boy, you were in trouble then.
Yeah.
I mean, things musically, things have changed. My best memories of that are the fact that we never gave up.
Right.
I mean, we went through some really lean times.
Oh, sure.
And singing to stuff that's canned is fine.
Yeah. But it's not as good as live
No,
in any way, shape, or form.
And
yeah.
you can't. The thing is, you can't change anything.
Right. Right.
And then if something happens to that, you're done.
Right.
Unless you want to just sing a cappella or as Linda Kretzinger used to say, acapulco.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot he was the sound meister for
Oh yeah,
quite
years.
a while.
Oh years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you don't cross him.
Yeah, I learned that the hard way.
So, how has St. James impacted your faith walk?
I'm going to say I think it's affected him more than it has me. I've always been. I read the Bible. I read 4 things before I go to sleep each night, and I know people say read in the morning.
It depends on the person.
I can't.
Yeah.
I was always get up and get out of the house because I had to go to school, and if I do it before I go to sleep, sometimes I wake up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning thinking about what I've read.
It's one downside of it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and it's okay. It's okay because I know I'm supposed to do that.
Right.
But the weirdest thing for me is that I'm reading 4 discrete things, but there are days when they all tie together. And those are the days when I go, okay, I get it. What am I supposed to focus on?
Yeah.
And having come out of the hospital and had to get back into the sequence of doing that stuff, I had to go back, because it's me. I had to go back and read all of those devotions from when I was in the hospital.
Oh. Okay.
I had to read them all. I had to read them because I wasn't caught up.
Sure.
I mean, that was October, November, December. I was in December and I quit, and so I had to read all those, or December, January, whatever it was. So I'd go back and pick all those up, and then I have the Bible in a year.
Oh, yeah.
And it's chronological, which is, if anybody ever asks you about those, they're wonderful.
Yeah.
Because it pulls all the various, like 1 Samuel and whatever in the Chronicles and the Kings, and they all of those same stories come, and it makes so much more sense.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to me.
No, it does, because
Maybe I should
people
try that.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah, because 1st, 2nd Kings and 1st, 2nd Chronicles just line up.
Yeah.
The 1st, 2nd Chronicles tells a story slightly different.
Yes.
But yeah, some people go, I'm reading this again, but then when you read it together, it does. It makes a lot of
Yes.
sense.
Well, and then numbers make sense.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, and I had to go back and pick up all of those. So I would read I'd say, okay, 15 minutes, and we'll see how far we get. I'm caught up, which is good, and now I'm going on. But it's crazy, because there's a lady writer who the book is called Unshakable. I would recommend it for everybody, not just female people, of the Lady Jenner. She's good and scriptural and uses stuff from her own life, and it's wonderful. But sometimes it goes right along with Portals of Prayer.
Oh. Okay.
I mean, what she talks about, we'll talk about what Portals of Prayer does, and then sometimes, which is really important, whatever I'm reading in the Bible for March the 14th, will go along with, and I'm going, okay, this means something. Well, because how does that work? If God didn't have that planned, that wouldn't be.
Right.
So anyway, but and now he's doing devotions. I see him sitting at the table doing devotions.
Cool.
So I have hope for him.
Well, I was talking to my dad one time, a couple of years ago, about 2 years ago, and I told Dad, I said, I keep thinking about hell, and I'm getting a little concerned, because I don't want to die and go there.
Right.
And so we talked a little bit, and he prayed with me, so I got my act together, and it was interesting.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wish we could have devotions together. I just don't always like doing it by myself.
Sure.
And for some reason, and I'm sure this is probably the guy with the horns, I'll be sitting there starting to read, and I'll say,
Oh, yeah. Well,
get
that happens a
sleepy.
lot, yeah. It's actually a good technique if you want to go sleep, read your Bible. I mean,
Oh,
I'd
yeah.
say that, but it
Amen
does
to
work.
that.
It does work.
Oh yeah, Numbers. Just go to Numbers.
Yeah,
Leviticus
I
and
was
Numbers,
worried about
you'll be-
reading that one.
I always tell people, I said, if you're, because I have the Bible read to me in the morning, and I read it myself later on, but if you're reading through the Bible and you get to Numbers or Leviticus or wherever they give just or like First Chronicles, where it's like 7 chapters of nothing but genealogies, that's a good time to put it on an app or something and have it read to you while you're driving or something. Because it's kind of mind numbing to read through it.
Oh, yeah.
And you get more out of it, I think, if you do listen to it in that sense. So
Yeah. Because sometimes I like being talked to, when
Sure.
I'm driving, so it's
Well,
kind of
that's
nice.
the other advantage of being here, because you can talk to almost anybody about a Bible, whatever, and nobody's going to look at you and go, "You're reading the Bible? What are you doing there?"
Yeah.
It's very much true. So what hopes do you have for St. James' future? What are you looking to happen?
Well, from PPC, I think we're on the right track. I mean, your three things that you talked about, I mean, it'd be really easy, just keep doing what we're doing, because we're pretty good at it.
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's comfortable.
And it's comfortable, and we know how to do it real well.
Right.
And if we don't keep doing it, then there's going to be changes. But the thing that strikes me is that we are getting people who come here without being grabbed and brought in.
Yes.
I mean,
That's
and you know where that's coming from, because that has to be a God thing.
Oh, yeah,
definitely.
I mean,
now Tom Shabo asking people to come to the Nativity Walk, that's the other good thing. People here are not afraid of saying, "Come to St. James.
Right.
Come and see.
Right.
Come and see what's going on here." And I've all the different places I went because I went with somebody.
Sure.
Had I not had somebody to go with, except a couple times that Mom dropped me off, would I have gone to those churches? Probably not.
Right.
Now, and when we had the daycare and preschool here, and I know people are sad that it went, but you couldn't run it. There was no money. I mean, you had to make that hard decision that we can't support. You'd like to.
Right.
I mean, just take all, like Statue of Liberty, bring me your whatever, huddled masses, but you can't do that. And that gave us a lot of opportunities to talk to people who were probably unchurched.
Sure.
But I don't know that was the only thing. I mean, obviously that was not the only thing we should be doing. So I think looking forward to the future, I think just keeping going on what we've been doing, along with a little more outreach. And I think going to Gas City might be a good thing. I mean, I'm not saying that they're all heathens down there.
No.
But there aren't Lutherans.
Right.
I mean, there might be Lutherans, but they don't know that they are yet.
Yeah. There you go. You're Lutheran, you just don't know it yet.
I think you're a Lutheran. And that sort of goes along with Eric teaches at Cardinal Ritter. The funny thing about Eric teaching at Cardinal Ritter is that he is more scripture-based from going through here than a lot of the people he teaches with who are Roman Catholic.
Oh, sure.
They will ask him questions because of his basis that he has here or had here. Now, and he's going to heaven, I know.
Yeah.
Ian is going to heaven, even though he's unchurched.
Right.
He will listen to me talk about God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit, and Nikki's going to heaven. All three of my kids I know are going to heaven. So I'm thrilled. Now, would I like them to come here, Ian and Nikki to come here? I would love it.
Yeah.
But that's not who they are right now.
Right.
But there are other people out there
Sure.
that could come here.
Right.
So I think we if we go somewhere else and we can find them, let's tell them that they are Lutheran and they just didn't know it and they need to get here. The programs that we have, I see the Sunday education time. I mean, those people who teach that are gifted.
Mm-hmm.
And did I do that at one time? Yes, but not well. It wasn't. I knew it wasn't my calling. I was uncomfortable. I like to talk about the Bible with people, and we've had some. Back in the Larman ministry, when we had Wednesday night or Thursday night studies, we had Bible studies, and I love Bible studies.
Yeah.
But I don't know that they are the best way to get people into the church. I mean, if it's talking about something that you can do with your kids or your family or your whatever, people might come, especially if we feed them.
Right. Yeah. Feeding them's a big deal.
And Lutherans are good at feeding people.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I cannot think of a time I've ever been hungry.
Yeah.
But I see that the younger people. The younger people can be a key because they know other younger people.
Right.
And if they're having a good time and their kids are having a worthwhile time, then they might bring some of those other people that they know in.
Exactly.
Because we are aging.
Yes.
Now, we had a pastor who was an interim pastor, and I think I told you this. He said that he categorized us as a dying church in a dying town. None of us agreed with him.
Oh.
We didn't tell him that because we didn't want to hurt his feelings. But see, from his viewpoint, we were to him that because at that point we were, was that COVID-ish? It was COVID-ish. Anyway, weren't doing a whole lot of outreach or whatever, and he really honestly wasn't interested in that. And so it was good for us that he was here, because then we went, that's probably not what we want to do.
Right.
So I mean, we've been through a lot of different things, and I think they were all necessary.
Sure.
Now, you have to stay till you retire.
Oh, I'm staying beyond that. Probably.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yay.
That will be good. Because I think you have a good, you already know about AI. You're already using some of that meta stuff.
Yeah.
I'm 71, which makes me much older than you.
About 10 years.
10
I'll be
years.
61.
Yeah, I know.
I was 67.
Oh,
And the thing is, I look at you and I think where I was 10 years ago, and of course we didn't have all of these opportunities, but the fact that you keep your mind open and you're trying these new things, and if they don't work, they don't work.
no, they don't.
But see, there are people who would try them and go, we have to make them work, we have to make them work.
Yeah.
If they don't work, they don't work. So as for a future, I think our future looks great.
Yeah, I do too. I'm very positive about it.
And you better be positive, because we're not going to get anybody to come and, oh, poor St. James.
Yeah.
Oh,
And you know, that is true. Some congregations do have a down in the mouth type of approach, and they complain about how bad things are all the time. And that's a congregation that pretty much might as well close the doors, because nobody wants to come in and hear that.
Right.
So they want to come in and hear and say, well, yeah, we got some problems, but we're trying to get something done about it and move forward. And people will join something like that and put their efforts in it and get excited. So, and I do think it is positive. I think there's a lot of possibilities out there.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Well, and the more we look, the more we're going to find.
and I didn't ask you, or
No.
No, and I talk too much, and you should just shut me down.
I will not
Okay,
say
it's
a word.
Yep, I'm driving. No, but I think what you're doing, I think this is good.
Okay. Yeah.
I think because we all, back from 1990 to now, we've all seen all kinds of changes, but we haven't seen them in the same way, and they've not affected us in the same way. And I think having this digitally captured,
Yeah.
because you can go back and go, now what was it back in the, and you've got it.
Right.
Forever and ever now.
Right.
Oh,
I
Lord,
think
what
it's getting good or bad, right?
what a thought. But you know, the biggest thing is this church is such a caring church. I don't think I've ever seen, as many places as I've been, I don't think I've ever seen one as caring. And I don't see that changing a whole lot.
No.
Yeah, we learned a lot when she had her surgery.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, it's just, it makes a big difference looking, we're living in the present, so we're not going to dwell in the past, but we can use what's in the past to help us get ready for the future.
Right.
And we don't know where that future is going to be.
Right.
But I think if we keep a positive outlook, I see St. James could go another 75 years.
Mm-hmm. That would be great.
Well, we got the building for it.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
75 more. That seems like a long time. I
Yeah.
started thinking of the Jetsons and all that.
Yeah.
Well, when you realize, though, we're 25 years into the 2000s,
Yeah.
and
So another 75 years, but yet 2,200.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
and there'll be people. I'm just sure there'll be people here.
Yeah. Anything else?
No, I'll shut up.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us for the 75th anniversary talks, and we'll see you next time. Peace out.
Walking these streets, shadows fall,
Right off.
lost in a
Edit that part out.
world, echoes call, searching for life, voices true, St. James Church in the heart of the blue. Glorify God, no pushing through the night, feeling small, seeking the answers start